This is Real Talk, where we talk with real leaders about real leadership situations. And I am very excited today to be talking with my good friend and colleague, David Berry. David, welcome. How are you doing today?
Mark, I'm doing great. And thank you so much for the invitation to talk with you. It's fun to reconnect.
It is. Yeah, we go back over 10 years. I think I first met you when Molly Davis, part of our team, was doing work with TaylorMade, and you were in charge of leadership development at TaylorMade at the time, which I thought was cool. I'm a terrible golfer, but I think golf is cool, and you were
That's
there.
right.
You then presented, we invited you, and you came and presented at a big leadership conference we did in Portland, which was awesome. You were one of the favored presenters at that conference. We did a summit up in the Columbia Gorge about, 3 or 4 years ago, which was really cool. And so, yeah, you definitely have some great ideas. You wrote a book. We can talk about that on here today, David, too, if you want. But one of the things, and I want to give you a minute just to kind of share with us who you are and how you got to where you are. But I'm definitely interested, and I know that others on this call are interested in hearing about the story behind Municipal, not just Municipal, the business that the startup you're doing, but the story behind it. So
You bet.
you want to just take a minute and talk to us about who you are and how you grew up, and all that kind of good stuff, and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, nothing like a big wide open question to start us off. I'm going to see if I can pinpoint a few things in there and give you the best sort of version of that in snapshot form.
Sure.
First off, I just want to say thank you, because we've been collaborating now in different ways for many years, and it's been really important to me, and it's been a highlight of this phase, this last 10 or so years of my professional evolution, which involved leaving TaylorMade and starting my own consultancy, which includes leadership development and coaching, lots of organizational work. That's where my passion is. I've been influenced by so many great leaders in the field, from practical OD folks to other coaches to poets and philosophers, all of whom say some version of, human beings want to feel connected and purposeful and alive in their work. And that's why I do what I do, because I want to feel those things. And I want to help leaders and team members feel alive and purposeful and connected in their work every day. Why wouldn't we do that? It seems so obvious, and yet we have all kinds of systemic issues that get in the way of it. So
Yeah.
I'm always interested. I love the subject matter that we landed on for today about starting fresh and resetting. That's a conversation that I'm always very interested in. But today we sit at this incredible intersection of opportunity regarding how we hit the reset button, how we start something new, having been given this bizarre, sometimes terrifying, at least unsettling, depending on your circumstances, 3-month window of time that we've all been a witness to and a part of. And so that conversation about starting fresh and resetting is more powerful than ever.
Yeah.
It makes the timing for Municipal pretty extraordinary. A year ago, when we started talking about getting this new venture off the ground, we said that Municipal is and will build a community of inspired people who refuse to stop pursuing their full potential. We believed that an organization and a brand could represent the pursuit of the better and best versions of ourselves, and we were passionately committed to making that happen. That was 7, 8, 9 months ago. With what's gone on in the last few months, we have just doubled down on that resolve, because this is precisely the time for people who have that deep sense of personal belief, who are committed to the fullest version of themselves, this is the time for them to shine.
So David, let me just ask you, based on what you, I just want to make sure I understand this. You started into this idea before the COVID things cropped up. But it sounds like it wasn't that you guys had this clairvoyant vision of the future, but the fact that we're in the situation that we're in actually has accentuated or reinforced what the purpose of what Municipal was to begin with. Is that right?
That's exactly right. In a sense, it's challenged and inspired us to double down on our vision.
Double down on it. Okay.
And that's because the founders of and owners of this company, including our CEO, Harry Arnett, are people who brought that belief system in to the very origin story of this company, that you always bet on yourself. Mm. You can probably do okay being a bad imitation of an executive coach, or a bad imitation of a CEO, or a bad imitation of anything, and you can probably do okay. But the way to differentiate yourself is to actually figure out what it is that you bring to that conversation, what it is that you bring to that role, and that kind of clarity is the difference between those inspired people, between those people who sit back and say, "There's more for me here." And that could, and you know, it's important also to say, this is not just a business conversation. This is relevant in friendship. This is relevant in parenting. This is relevant in teaching. This is relevant in any pursuit. It's about the choice that we make as human beings to either sit in the comfort of the known, or recognize that we're comfortable and say, and ask ourselves the hard question, which is, to what degree of discomfort am I willing to step forward? To what degree of discomfort am I willing to challenge myself? Because I know that all the times in my life when I've done that, hard though it may have been, I've come out in better shape. I've come out with more confidence and commitment to the things I really care about. And as a brand, that's a promise we offer to our community today. Now, because what I haven't said in 10 minutes is, what the heck is Municipal doing? You know, and so today the form that takes is making incredible apparel that's full of utility, apparel that's comfortable, apparel that goes with you to the gym, to the virtual office, out to dinner, things that you can rely on. We talk about the best versions, making the best versions of the things that you love. And right now, that's the manifestation of Municipal in concrete form, because what we know is, if you're going to be the best version of yourself, if you're going to pursue your potential, a huge part of that is your physical self, and feeling good in what you're wearing and literally feeling equipped can make a huge difference to the attitude you bring to whatever your endeavor is. And so we felt like it made sense to start there, to give people a tangible way to get a hold of some abstraction in what we talk about. But it's really not abstract, because when I talk about community, what that reminds me of is to say that as we're at this threshold, the world being the way it is, and all of the questions that come with how we will be coming out of this pandemic, one of the things that's always true is that we will have to rely on one another. The mythology, the old mythology and the old story, is that we have to be rugged individualists and do it ourselves. And I think there's probably lots of examples right now of people feeling, because isolated, really determined to sort of figure out their own path. And we have to stand on our own 2 feet, but I'd rather do that arms linked with people who love me, support me, and care about me. And we're trying to do that in our workplace and in this community that we're building.
So David, I love that explanation. We do have a question, and we'll probably get to it. I love the mission. I hope that David will tell us how to buy municipal gear. Okay. But one thing I want to emphasize, part of what I heard you say is, okay, Municipal is an apparel. Sounds like it's a really cool apparel business company, startup, right? But it's not just about apparel. It's not like the founders got together and said, hey, we can make $1 selling this kind of shirt and this kind of apparel. The cause behind it is really, really important, right? And this Municipal, like other businesses
Absolutely.
are doing that. It's kind of like what Simon Sinek says, the why is really, really important, right? And I love that why. I think
Yes.
that Municipal should become the official outfitter for the Learning Point team. Okay, as long as you need to
That's
have
easy.
XL, you need to have extra small all the way up to 2XL. But can you tell it? I mean, where are you at in the startup? How big is it? And you mentioned your CEO, who is probably a founder too, right?
Yes.
And who else is behind this? How is this going? And I'm sure it's not a slam dunk, 100% guaranteed success, but where are you at in that process?
No one's lining up to hand us anything.
Yeah.
We fully appreciate that. We have great partners. We have great owners and founders, believers in the mission and purpose of this company, and we intend to fully realize the benefits of having really well-connected, well-known folks as a part of the enterprise. But if we're going to be true to that vision, then we have to manifest it through our own sense of unstoppableness. So that's a big word, and it's a little clunky, but it's a powerful one because, and a huge part of our origin story. When Harry and I sat down last summer to start to lay down the cultural foundations of the organization, and we started the conversation about our why, our vision and our mission and our values, he handed me a piece of paper on which he had written down some of the language that he felt was really important for us to embrace. And I'll never forget, he said, everything on this piece of paper is negotiable, except for this word. And that word is unstoppableness. And that's our way to capture our vision in an essence, right? In a singular way, right? That inspired people who refuse to stop pursuing their full potential are by definition unstoppable. And they do the things necessary and to live that out. And so we know that we've got to, regardless of the circumstances around us, we didn't want to be going to the market in mid to late summer. That was not the plan. We were going to be out there by now and hitting on all cylinders and chalking up the wins and loving the success, right? Yeah. And building for the future. We were going to be there. We're not there yet. And we're not there yet because circumstances have presented themselves that have challenged all of our assumptions about how we can launch a business. Mm-hmm. We're going to be there soon. And the reason we're going to be there soon is that we doubled down on the vision, the quality of our teammates, their resourcefulness in thinking about other ways to do what it is we want to do, so we can get out there in a way that's realistic and doable, but also sets us up for bigger things down the road.
That's awesome. That's great. So how big is the team right now? How many?
We have 13 full-time employees. Yeah. And
your title is VP of People and Culture. I don't know of too many startups that have that kind of vision out of the gate, right? So tell us a little bit more about that.
It's a title and a role that I feel just profoundly grateful to have and to hold. And I think this is as much a testament to the power of long-term trusting relationships as it is to anything else. Harry and I worked together at TaylorMade starting in 2005, developed a friendship through being colleagues there. And when he went on to lead marketing and other efforts across town at Callaway Golf,
Okay.
and I had launched my consulting business, he hired me over to work with him and his team.
Okay.
And that became a huge part of my business focus, but it cemented a partnership so that when he decided to make this move, he came to me early and said in just in a really lovely way, I would like your help. I would like your help in doing this. And my eyes lit up because I have so much passion for this work of the full realization of the human self in work. And I knew Harry's heart was in that same place. And I knew that it mattered to him and to me to build the thing we've so believed in and talked about for so long, to see if we could do it. In a sense, what I said earlier, to bet on ourselves, and that he bet on me to help us bet on ourselves and to create the thing we know is possible. It's the gift of my professional life, for sure. And it's got just beautiful ripple effects in terms of all the opportunities that come with it, and the chance to build something from the bottom up.
That's great. And I know the part of our theme focus for this discussion is fresh start, that this is the best time for a fresh start. And we've been talking a lot about Municipal, which is not, it's a fresh start, but it's the first start, and
Correct.
part of fresh start means, starting over perhaps, right? Or starting something new. I guess you'll never now have to question whether you could do this or not. You'll know because it's part of your reality now, which I think is huge, right? That you're eliminating that question of, well, could we have done that? Because you're
Right.
in the middle of it.
Right.
Which I think is awesome. You're partnering with good people that have a common cause with yours, and you believe in that cause. And knowing you, I know that people and culture, that's kind of what your whole career, your whole purpose has been, is to help build that. And I've seen you a little bit, glimpses, and our common friend Molly has told me about some of the work that you've done with individual leaders at all levels of an organization, right? So let's talk for just a minute about this idea of fresh start, because the other day when you and I were on the phone, that's where that idea kind of germinated and came together. And I love that. Why, from your vantage point, why is right now such a great time for a fresh start? Whether you're a CEO, whether you want to launch a new business, or whether you're the frontline leader of a production team or any other kind of team, maybe you run a branch in a bank. Why is now, what are we talking about? What do we mean when we say now is a great time for fresh start?
I'm still exploring the idea myself. What comes to mind initially, or what I've been thinking about, and as I think about it again, just here in the moment, anytime is good, right? Anytime we get so moved to question our present reality and determine that I'm waking up tomorrow and I'm finally doing X, from exercise to diet to my business idea to writing my book. I'm finally doing it, and I'm doing it. I decided, I made a fresh start. And that comes with mountains of anxiety and fear, and it takes a lot to make to get the resolve up and get going. What's been normalized in the last few months is that we're all in the same spot. Now, I'm careful with that language because clearly there are people more deeply impacted, physically impacted by what's gone on.
Right.
And so I would never equate my circumstances to those. But if we talk about the majority of the population who have been forced to sit back and literally wait it out There's a lot of time to think. There's a lot of time to reconsider. And because this big pause button has been pushed, I believe, and what we have practiced here and what I've been trying to practice in my personal life, is that I have a real responsibility to rise up to the best possible version of myself. And if everything is being reconsidered, why shouldn't that be reconsidered too?
I love that right there.
Because if education is never going to be the same, if healthcare is never going to be the same, if how we come to work, do we even come to work? If that's ever going to, that's never going to be the same. Not in my lifetime, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Then who's going to help manifest the new versions of these huge opportunities that are in front of us? And I'm not suggesting that we should all decide tomorrow that we're going to take the lead on those big issues. But what if everyone decided, hang on a second, I have a contribution to make. And even if that's finally writing down the book idea I've got, that contribution matters because it's you testing the limits of your own potential. And I just think a world of people doing that is a more exciting world. It's a more fulfilling world. It's a world of more energy. You used the term in the promo for this, David brings the juice, and I want to do that. And I want to be surrounded by people who bring that kind of juice to their endeavors because it lifts all of us up.
That's good. Yeah, no, I got that too from another common friend of ours, Dave Canales with the Seahawks. They call him the juice.
Yeah. Yeah, he lives that. He absolutely lives that.
Yeah, which is awesome. So in your role, you got 13, it may grow. I'm sure that your goal isn't just to add people, right? That's not your goal and not your mission, but even, to instill those core values and your vision in one person, 13 people, 30 people, and then extend that as a brand needs to do to your actual membership, your customers, right?
Yes.
That's part of your role, I take it, as VP of People and Culture. One of the questions we have in here is, what are some things you think about that are important to do that well, to get that buy-in in others, even down through your people to your customers, not just for Municipal, but for Acme Corporation or some nonprofit, maybe a food bank or whatever it is, right? Whatever the organization is, what thoughts do you have with how you get that done?
Anyone who interacts with this organization, we'll just use us, right?
Okay.
Anyone who interacts in this organization is going to understand immediately the degree to which we take seriously our commitment to culture and people development. They're going to know. And that is going to be so attractive because one of the implicit assumptions they will make is if they care that much about the quality of life for the people in that business every day, then I'm willing to trust that that's going to extend out to me as well. And so it just becomes common sense that you would, as clearly as possible, define the cultural parameters of your organization. And so we didn't take lightly the exercise of vision, mission, and values. We socialized it to the team. We are in the midst right now of taking each of our values and defining the operating behaviors under each one that will allow us to see when it is actually being lived out or not, which then becomes the way we can challenge and engage one another to live up to what we say we care most about. But we are doing that right now as a team. And how many of us have been subject to performance management systems that are just both, philosophically and practically as far removed from our real experience, a process that actually dehumanizes people and dehumanizes the work.
Yeah.
Where values lift people up Values are something to aspire to. And what we foresee, what we're doing now and what we foresee are conversations about performance that are rooted in our value system. So if we say creativity is one of our core values, creativity is essential to unstoppableness, then we can operationalize that and talk about what are the ways that you have been expressing your creativity? What are the ways you aspire to express your creativity that maybe we've gotten in the way of or somehow prevented? Here are the ways I've seen you do it and want to acknowledge and recognize you for. But see, keeping it close to the values is the best defense we have against those values and those inspiring words from becoming abstractions and posters on a wall to being living, breathing documents, living, breathing concepts that we feel accountable every day when we walk in the door, every day when we engage in the work that we do. So that is, if you're not doing that in terms of a reset, this is a great example of a reset. If you're an organizational leader and you think, and you look at that honestly, and you know that those things are not foremost in the minds and in the daily practices of your team, that would be a heck of a good place to start.
Yeah, I think of some of the clients that we're working with currently and were before, before the COVID pandemic started. One common theme is about half of their workforce is at home, working from home. Half or less is coming to the office or wherever they go to work. It could be in a manufacturing facility or, electric utility, whatever it happens to be. And these organizations, as is natural, have been operating with certain habits and patterns that drive kind of mediocrity more than they do excellence, like what an unstoppableness, like what you've been talking about. Municipal and what you're involved in right now is a startup where the past 3 months have created an obstacle for the startup, but you're just managing through that, right?
Yeah.
But for some of these other businesses, it's like, okay, we have our pattern. This has been a disruption, and we're going to be going back to something, right? So talk to us about how that right now is then a good time. Right now is a great time for them to reinstill or to start over some of those things you're just talking about in terms of vision, mission, values, and so forth.
This to me gets to the heart of why we do leadership development. It is among the most courageous acts a leader can take to say to a team, especially established teams, especially established organizations with all the norms that get created over time, mm-hmm. to say to them, what are the questions we've been most afraid to ask about how we do what we do every day? What are the sacred cows that we've been tiptoeing around? What, if you could reset us, what's the first 1, 2, or 3 things that you would do? Because the reason that's connected to leadership development is it would take a whole lot of courage to ask and a whole lot of grace to receive what comes back, yeah, in the spirit in which most people will offer it. Mm-hmm. It's hard because you're going to hear some hard things. If people really trust you, want to know, and that's incredibly important. But you're going to hear some hard things, and you're going to have to take on the chin, the truth of whatever people's experience is, which doesn't mean that it's all correct, but it does mean that it's their perception of the way things are. Right. And there's a lot of validity in those perceptions. So could we just begin to ask those kinds of questions and give open space for, right, a more human workplace is a workplace in which people can bring all of it. And that means their opinions and their ideas and their creativity to the front, to the forefront of our ongoing conversation about how we do our work. If you're not seeing that from your team members, then there's a good reason why. And it's probably because the perception is that you really don't want to know. And you might look back and say, well, I never said that, or I certainly don't feel that way. But all of us get a little defensive when we are the owner or the responsible party and people start to poke their fingers at it.
Right.
But that's why we have to have a bigger conversation. And the bigger conversation is this is about us. This is our work. It's not me. And therefore it's not precious, right? It's so precious that I hold it so close and no one can see it or touch it. No, it's this is our work. We have a community to serve. We have better products to make. We have incredible goals, none of which can be achieved if people don't bring all they've got day in and day out.
And if we hold on to those trappings that you were talking about, that we think are so precious. Excellent. So we had another question. This is a good one. Define operating behaviors that support the value system. That's good stuff. So let me see if I can venture into this, Dave, and you can school me on this, okay? But one of your values, or I guess, is unstoppable, or maybe that's like the main.
That's the mother. That's the mother value. That's right.
The mother value. So when I hear you talk about operating behaviors, it's translating that down into what I do as a team member or as a worker and a member of this team.
Yes.
Every day, right? So part of the work there is to help me figure out what unstoppable means to me when it comes to getting this design right, or figuring out where the numbers why they don't add up over here, right? Can you talk a little bit more about what you've been able to do with regard to, making that translation happen down to the local worker level?
I'll talk about it at two levels.
Okay.
Because what precedes, I think this decision that we made in terms of focus on values is probably one that I'm most proud of, because before we did the deep dive into the organizational values, we did a deep dive with each team member into their individual value system. We don't want a group of people saying we align with, the corporate culture, but having no expression for the belief system they bring to the table. That those have to coexist. They always do coexist, but often go unnamed. So we say, let's name them. Okay, so let's name them. So we established values under unstoppableness that help us get to our vision and our mission. Then we said, so what are yours? And so here's an example of that in taking more tangible form. One of our team members' number one value is courage. Great. That's such an evocative word.
Mm-hmm.
We all have our interpretation of it. But if I don't understand what their interpretation is, there's no chance I can help them have that satisfied in our workplace. And there's no way for them to expect realistically that we can do that for them. So we have to operationalize it. So one example, courage. What does courage look like in the workplace? Well, how many times do we sit on a Zoom call or around a conference room table and have a conversation, the easy path through which is to nod, agree, and move along? The harder path is to speak up and say, there's something about this that doesn't feel right, or I disagree, or what about this, or right? Anything that rocks the boat a little is often avoided for the benefit of the welfare of the group, or to preserve power dynamics for that matter.
Yeah.
So what I envision for our future, knowing this person has the value of courage, is that we could so normalize these values that in that meeting, when you get to that dreaded pause, we could say and rely on that person and turn to that person and say, hey, we know that your number one value is courage. What's the unspoken thing in this conversation right now that we need to address? Now, you wouldn't put someone on the spot like that normally.
Yeah.
But if you know, if you know that's the role they want to play, that's what makes them feel alive and purposeful, you've just given them a gift, a chance to express what they most care about. And now what we know as a team is, if we just graph it, we can see where all the values are, and then we can say, who can we turn to? Someone else says, my value is family. Oh, how does that translate to work? Well, I want an environment where we can trust, love, and rely on one another. And I want to create experiences that bring us closer together. Okay, so I'm likely going to go to that person for help. If I think people and culture is my job, I have failed. If I don't smarten up and say, we have someone here, multiple people actually, for whom family is a primary value, well, then my smarter self is getting them on a call, getting them in a room and saying, hey, what do we need to do to keep people connected? What do we need to do to keep those good feelings of trust continually evolving so that we don't lose out on that? So that's what I'm talking about, right? Making them actionable. And you can go, and this is what we're in the middle of. You can go through any value and find the active element of it, the part of it that gets called out as actionable, and then the courage of the team, back to courage, the courage of the team will be to actually do that. That's going to be a long road. I mean, listening to this, people probably rolling their eyes a little bit like, oh my gosh, what have you signed up for? But I'd rather sign up for that than the alternative. Yeah,
it sounds like conversation, common language. It's more than just, obviously more than one meeting. It's an ongoing conversation. It's the blood that flows through the veins.
It will never end as long as we're here. We will fail, and we will fail, and we will fail again.
I love the example.
At living up to that. And that's why we have to stay in the conversation.
Yeah. I love that example of, if someone owned the value of courage, that I assume part of what you're saying is that could become a value that the team adopts as well. And I could see how you could ask that question without even using the word courage, the question of what is the unspoken message that we have not put on the table yet.
Right.
I could see that as being a great question to ask a team at any point, right? So that then those that understand the value that we've espoused around courage will speak up and get to the rest of the conversation. It's really probably part of the good stuff, right? And not be afraid to do that.
If we create even the smallest opening for the real conversations, we are going to be unstoppable, because it's such a radical cultural differentiator. There just aren't that many organizations even attempting to live into and practice that level of candor. It's so hard. It's so uncomfortable sometimes, and it's going to be. It's what's going to define the company experience and the brand promise. Again, back to what I said earlier, I just know that people are going to be so attracted to that level of commitment and want to come closer to Municipal as best they can.
That's awesome. So, David, you and I, we didn't cover this, so I'm going to throw this at you. It's a surprise attack here. But you've mentioned Harry, who was first a friend, colleague, client, and he invited you to help him start this business. So if you could use 3 words to describe Harry as a leader just top ahead, what 3 words come to mind?
I'm pretty sure he's watching this right now. So I am on
Courage,
the hook.
David. Courage.
I am on the hook. Harry is an unabashed idealist. His belief in possibility, both for himself and for others, is profound. He's one of the smartest people I've ever met. Just raw, smart, just gets it, knows things, and knows how to express himself really, really well. And he's got an enormous heart. He really does. I mean, his love for people, it's profound, and it's frankly what makes him so attractive as a leader. He's attractive as a human because of that, but as a leader, there's a deep sense of compassion there, and I'm not willing anymore to associate with anybody who doesn't lead that way.
Yeah.
We all got a clock ticking, and I want to say that I spent, this is Harry's line, do work you love with people you love. And I want to say that I got to a place in my life where I, with full integrity, can say I did the work that I love with people that I love, that people I am hungry to see every day, and excited to work with, and challenged by, all the good things. And that starts with Harry.
That's awesome. Good. So if I were talking to the 12 other people at Municipal today, and I asked them what 3 words would you use to describe David Barry, what would
I was just asked this question the other day, and that's so I had a little head start on you. What I came up with for that response, I think it's true. The first word that I came up with was earnest.
Earnest, okay.
Earnestness. That can also be translated as intensity and radical impatience. But I feel that sense of action and being a catalyst and earnestness to go forward and to see what's possible. Aware is a word that came to mind. Now, you asked what would they say. I hope these are things that would be in the ballpark. I can't speculate too much on that, but I think I live my life fairly close to these things. Awareness, I put a lot of effort into becoming aware of myself, and as a result, trying to do a better job today than I did yesterday in how I react or don't react, or the things that set me off, the things that make me help me be at my best, and the things that allow me to regress. But also awareness of situations and awareness of dynamics, and that's something I've worked hard to do, and I think that's really important for my job. So I think awareness is an attribute. And then I kind of vacillate between thoughtful and meaningful, thoughtful. I just I want every interaction, I want every experience to be purposeful. I want to wring out of every moment the good stuff, and that can be oppressive to people at times. I know. Ask my kids, because I've finally refrained myself from every dinner table conversation. Not asking how was your day, but hey, let's go recite poems together, and let's let's dig deep in. And they're just like, can we just go have dessert and move on? So I'm trying to be a little more restrained in my desire to have every interaction hit the apex of meaning, but I'll give myself a break on that one, because I think it's a worthy pursuit in general.
Yeah, you love poetry. I know that. And you have 3 kids, is that right?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the oldest is approaching teenage years, or?
No, we're past that.
Oh, okay.
The oldest, Duncan, is finishing his spring quarter at home right now because he's a sophomore at the University of Oregon.
Oh,
Yeah, and our girls
go
are in
Ducks.
go Ducks. And our girls are in high school.
Oh,
And so they've been doing, so we have a full house these days, unexpectedly, like lots of folks.
yeah.
And it's been an incredible blessing is the other sort of, we were just talking about this the other day. Our girls and their older brother wouldn't have had this chance to spend this kind of time together now that he's off in college and building his life away from us. And it's been really gratifying to see them connect in a deeper way through this experience.
Yeah.
So
Definitely one of the positives of this experience. I've got one more question that came in. I want you to address this, but I also want to ask you, poetry, when you mentioned poetry, it jogged my memory that you wrote a book about a couple of years ago that I'd like to ask you about that. But here's the question first is, and I think this is a really good one. You've got 13 on your team. You're probably very careful about who you invite to be on your team. It's not probably, I'm assuming it's not, hey, this person has the right skill. We need a technology person. They're good at this. So let's hurry and put them on here. So you're careful putting people on the team, but the question is, what do you do if you suspect that someone isn't a good cultural fit, which in reality could happen as your team moves forward, right? So what thoughts do you have on that?
It will happen. We have to be unafraid to have the real conversation about what's going on. And my bias will always be, we made an investment. We believed in this person. We saw something as they did in us. So this is worth seeing if we can figure out.
To fix it.
Yeah. And then just goes back to, if we do our work right and get clear, then we can build a roadmap for them collaboratively. Here's where it's not working. Positivity is a value, core value of unstoppableness. You're coming in day after day. Glass is half empty. It's not going to work. We're not going to figure it out. It is dragging us down. It is a countercultural thing. Let's sort through it. If we start that process early enough and are diligent enough, then what will happen is they will find developmentally a path to full participation, or it will become so uncomfortable that they will opt out because it's not for everybody. We will help them exit gracefully and with dignity, but it's not going to be for everybody, and that's okay.
Yeah, it sounds like going back to the operational behaviors. If they're in place, then the alignment or the lack of alignment becomes more apparent, right? For one,
take the mystery out of it.
Right.
Take the mystery out. This is the problem. These statements are so abstract. I don't know what to do, so I'll just do my thing.
Yeah.
And then we wonder why we get into these situations, and now there's really no place to go.
That's great, David. We've got just a couple more minutes, so talk to us about your book. I mean, just even the experience. Is it the one book? Have you written more than? And you write poetry too. I know that.
I'm a huge fan of poetry. I have penned a few poems, but I would not say that I'm a poet. Okay. The book is it's called A More Daring Life: Finding Voice at the Crossroads of Change. I felt like, and part of this was overcoming my own fear of putting my voice in the world. Part of this was a little bit calculating, like as a newly minted consultant and coach, I thought authorship was an important passageway. Mm-hmm. I wanted to have speaking opportunities, and I wanted to stamp myself with the sort of validity of that rite of passage. what I did was take a collection of writing through my blog, and loosely, I'd do a lot of things different 4 years ago, loosely organized it around three themes, the three themes of voice. And those three themes really are the hallmarks of the work that I continue to do. The first is speaking the voice of the self. Speaking of poetry, David White's poem, "Start Close In." Start close in. Take the first step. Don't take the second or the third one. Take the first step, and then he says this great line: the step you don't want to take. The close in step, the step towards understanding ourselves, is the one that most of us resist. And I certainly had done plenty of work resisting, taking a real look at who I was and how I was showing up. And so I wanted to articulate that voice of self. The other thing
by the way, sorry, this is
that's okay.
in line with that idea of fresh start, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The other thing I had been really good at resisting for most of my professional life up until that point was help from others. That I was fully seduced by the belief that I had to figure it out on my own. And so the second voice is the voice of connection. And the writings in that section are just about finding our way to one another and all the massive vulnerability it takes to say, I don't know, I'm not sure, I need help. Right? Felt like it was important to begin to try to articulate that voice. And the third voice is the voice of learning, the voice of exploration. So I felt like if we could speak the voice of our own self-awareness, if we could speak the voice of authentic connection, the third part of it has to be, to live a more daring life, has to be always learning, always fascinated by what's over the next horizon, and willing to keep moving in that direction, even though it frightens us to do so. Where I saw this become a wheel was that as soon as I'm willing to stretch myself out to that horizon, I'm going to learn new things about myself. And that will further enhance my voice of self-awareness and self-understanding, which will give me more confidence again to invest in those relationships. The confidence from those will help me to continue to explore. So it becomes this virtuous cycle. I wish 4 years ago I had expressed it the way I did just now, but with a little age, I got a little smarter and a little more experienced in how I think about that. But the themes of that resonate with me as much as today as they ever have.
Yeah, that's great. Reps, practice.
Absolutely.
Hey, David, we are out of time. Thank you so much. This has been so good. I think people are going to get a lot of value out of this. I've got 3 ideas that I want to run by you. Okay, we need to pursue these. All right.
Okay.
First one is Municipal needs to become the official outfitter of the Learning Point team. Okay.
Be our first licensee.
Yeah, let's do it. The second one is I would love to have another discussion with you and possibly with Harry.
You know, that crossed my mind actually as well. I think that would be really cool.
Because I don't know him yet, but
yep.
And I think the 2 of you on here together would be cool.
Be a lot of fun.
The third one is when you were talking about your writings, I know how much you write and how well you do that. And Molly does too, our mutual friend. Molly's a part of the Learning Point team. To have another one with you and Molly on here about the importance of journaling. You know, we don't all have to become bloggers or, you know, we don't need to publish a book, but there's something really valuable in writing down our experiences, our thoughts as a leader, even if you're a frontline supervisor, right? And I bet that you and Molly could come up with some real nuggets of wisdom for the rest of us when it comes to journaling.
Well, I love that idea, mainly because Molly and I really, for one another, gave the hard, loving push to do the writing of the respective books that we did.
Yeah.
And that happened. That happened at that event at Skamania Lodge, actually.
Where it started. Yeah.
Yeah. I was sitting out looking at the Columbia River Gorge. We had a really candid conversation, and it kind of resulted in maybe we both better get off our rear ends and get busy. And so that was a big motivation to do so. So I owe her a lot of credit for that.
She nudges me from time to time too. So
Sure.
not just on that, but on other things as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. She's good like that.
she is good that way. So again, David, thank you so much. When time frame wise, when might I be able to wear my first municipal piece of apparel?
We're going to be out there alive and making a lot of noise in the world come midsummer, 1st of July. And and we're beyond energized and excited to bring it to life in that way. So we will keep you posted. Municipal.com.
Municipal.com.
Go out there today and sign up, and you'll be in the family and get exposed and highlighted and made aware of all the good things we've got coming.
Sounds good. All right. Yeah. Thank you, David. Have a great day. We'll see you next time.
Mark, thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Be well. Bye-bye.